Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the studio. We are live here, fabulous, on the YouTube. It's good to see everybody. If this is your first time getting the weekly videos, welcome. A bunch of new artists who are starting with us in the month of November. My name is Allison Jensen. I'm the owner of Orange Easel, and every Monday I make a video. We talk about what these kids are learning in classes, what the plan is for the week, and we'll go over any housekeeping stuff. So I do have a few things to show you when we get to those different sections to kind of explain what the projects are for the month of November. I also have some housekeeping notes. I have to make major corrections to last week's video, you guys. Thank you to everybody who emailed me and they were like, hey, Allison, Thanksgiving's the last Thursday in the month. Oh my gosh. It was a last minute thing. I was like, you know what? Let's throw November in here because I already had October's calendar in. So I'm like, we'll just really quick whip up a graphic for November. I should not do things really quick on a Monday morning. Not going to happen. So I apologize for the confusion and thank you to everyone who messaged me. I did get it fixed. So we will look at November a little bit later and talk about how Thanksgiving affects that last week in terms of the 4-time classes. We'll talk about which classes are affected, which classes weren't, all that stuff. Okay, so if you're catching the replay of this, like you're not watching it live, check out the timestamps that are in the description of the video, and they're also in your email. And you can just watch the sections that, are about what's going on in your classes. So I usually say, watch the intro, watch your class, like the section that your kid is in, and then watch housekeeping. And that's it. You don't have to watch the whole thing unless you want to, and that's fine too, but it's usually about 30 minutes long, right? So we got some notes. We'll go through those. I do want to talk a little bit about tomorrow, right? So today is Monday, November 4th, and tomorrow is Tuesday, November 5th. And we've got election night happening. Now that's a big night. It's super exciting. These are the signs that we're going to put throughout our space, and that it is a politics-free classroom space. There might be typos. I still have to review this. I'll send it to my editor, make sure there's no typos. But I did make a poster. We're going to get those up. I don't foresee it being an issue in our younger kids' classes, mostly because they're so early on in the night, right? But as we get to the later classes, that don't end till 9, we might have some early polling results already coming in. We might have some states that have already been declared for one candidate or the other. And that can prove to be emotional for some of us. It can also prove to be just a distraction for what we're trying to do in art class. And so our policy is going to be that this is a politics-free zone. We're not going to be watching for updates. We're not going to be on our phones listen to the pundits talk. We're not going to be discussing the issues or none of it. Okay. We're going to run it just like a regular night and understand that the rest of the world has a lot going on and a lot of talk. But when you enter our space, we're going to try to keep it as normal as possible. Once you leave here, you can look up results, but in the building at this time, we're just going to disconnect. In a lot of, I teach on a Tuesday night and I teach an older kids class that ends late. We're going to say no phones. So you can just put them away. If you get them out, you can put them in a paper bag on your desk. And if it really becomes a problem, then I can take it or you can leave. We're not going to let this be a distraction. If it is really important to you that you are like glued to the media coverage for this night in history, then take advantage of our makeup policy. Okay, that is why it's there. It is fine if this is super important to you and you're like, how dare you, Allison? This is history. I get it. However, it is not what we're here to do. And so if it's important to you, take advantage of the makeups. Okay, that's what we're going to say. If you have questions about that, you can reach out to me. Sound good? All right. We've got some things going on. Let's talk about these preschool classes. So we're starting a new month. It is the month of November. And this whole month revolves around ink, pattern, and the art of Henry Matisse. So these are our 3 stories for the month. We're going to read Ish by Peter H. Reynolds. We're going to read Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And we're going to read the Eric Carle book, Brown Bear, What Did You See? So we'll start with Ish, which is the delightful story about a boy who draws ish drawings that look vase-ish or portrait-ish or lamp-ish or, well, you know, whatever. It's not quite there, but it's ish. And it's about accepting that kind of abstract concept. And so we're going to do like ish drawings. We're going to do some ink art. We will start a Sumi ink project. So I didn't bring any Sumi ink with me, but I will get it for the next week's video so you can see what it looks like. I think India ink. It's a super rich black ink, has kind of almost a buttery texture to it. And it is super not washable. So wear your old clothes to the studio this week because it's not going to come out. Okay, but it does make beautiful drawings. And so we're going to start a big project that'll take us through the entire month with these preschool classes. We'll start it on, well, depending on your class, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday. Okay. All right. My multimedia classes also start new projects, and they are also ink month projects. Multimedia for K through 3rd grade are also going to be using Sumi ink. They are also going to work on the scale kind of that our preschoolers are working on, and that is a fairly large scale. I brought the paper with so I can show you. I believe it's 12 by 18. I think that's what the measurement said, but it's 12 by 18 sheet of paper, mixed media paper by Canson, nice and heavy duty and can hold up to the ink. So this is the size that they're going to be working on. Their subject matter for the month is animals. And those of you who've been around long enough, you know kind of our philosophy, but we really firmly believe that kids' art should be created by kids from start to finish. And so while we will narrow your media focus and maybe narrow your subject focus, we're not all making the same thing. And so when we say animal, you want to make a panda? Great. You want to make a kitten? Awesome. You want to make an eagle? Great. So really broad in terms of what animal they're going to put on this paper using the Sumi ink. Now, we're not going to start on this paper this week. This I just have for the video for you can see. We'll show it to our kids too so they know the scale that they're working on. But in week 1, we're going to look at some inspiration art. We've got some contemporary ink artists that we're going to look at who also have used animals as subjects. And we're going to talk about the kind of their composition that they choose, the style that they draw in, and that, you know, animals don't have to look just like animals. Like they don't have to be perfectly animal, right? They don't have to, they can be ish, basically. So we're going to look at that. We're going to practice drawing some animals. So we've got some step-by-steps that they can follow. Some of our artists will really love having it broken down into steps. We also have some photographs to look at. And so that way, for some of our artists who want to look at a photo reference and work from photo reference, they can do that. So we'll do some practicing. We'll do some brainstorming. By the time they leave week 1, they will know what they're going to put on this in week 2. For my 4th and 5th grade artists and my homeschool artists, we are also going to be making ink art. And I didn't bring the examples with me to show you, but we're looking at a contemporary artist, and I want to make sure that I pronounce his name right. It is Kam Wei Fong, and we're gonna look at his illustrations. They are fluffy creatures. He recently had an exhibit that was all furry creatures, and they were amazing, but they're made up of tiny little ink marks using different weighted pens. So I brought the tool that our kids are going to use to make these. They're going to be working on a 9x12 sheet of mixed media paper, which is the same paper we would have used. I don't think if we've used it yet. We have not. So, but it's our standard mixed media paper that we use. So not this size, smaller. It goes in a mat board. And we're going to use archival ink pens in different weights. And so I love the fact that we are able to give our kids really high quality, real art supplies, right? So these are archival ink pens, and they are all different. So I'm going to show you a couple of them. So this one here, these are kind of two ends of the spectrum. And you can tell because they've got numbers on the bottom. So this one says 005, and this one says 08. Those are measurements. I think it's millimeters. I'm not sure. These are what the pens look like. And so you can see the difference. The 005 is super duper small. It's so small you can't even see the little black dot, right? And then the 008 is thicker. So when I draw with these, they make different marks. So we're going to play with these and kind of learn the best practices for using them. Something like the 005 needs a really, really delicate touch, right? Because it's really easy to break off that felt tip and then this little thing doesn't work anymore. So we're going to learn how to take care of these, how to use them properly. We're going to practice making marks with them and practice making little furry creatures with it. So we'll increase the density of our mark in order to increase to darken the value, right, of our 3D object and all that stuff. And if I'm talking and you're like, this makes no sense, Allison, don't worry, I'll bring pictures next time. The kids are going to look at a lot of art inspiration this month or this week and see the art of Kamui Fong, so that way we can kind of get an idea of what we're going to be inspired by, and then they will create their own critters. A lot of his are cats, but that doesn't mean that theirs have to be cats. And they will create a grid of creatures of different personalities that have that kind of furry, fuzzy texture using these pens. All right, so that's what they're going to be doing. My 6th and 7th grade and 8th through 12th grade. Let me switch out gears here. Also ink month for you guys. And so this is a tradition in the studio. These guys are going to be in this for most of them. They've been around a long time. This is the November project. So they're going to be like, yes, we know what we're doing. Thinking about it since last year. We got it. So this is our ink and fire month for our big kids. They're going to be creating ink drawings as well. They will also use or have access to use these pens. Many of them will choose to use just an ultra fine point Sharpie, which is fine too. The difference between the two, in case anyone's interested, the difference between the two for me, this one is still water soluble. So, I mean, not super washable. It's not washable, but it's water soluble. My Sharpies are not. The Sharpies also have kind of a, like if you set them down, they ooze and bleed onto the paper. These ones, not quite so much. They just have a different feel to them. And our ultra fine point Sharpie is about as thick as our thickest of these. And then it goes thinner from there. But they will create a pattern drawing. So think Zentangles, for those of you who are familiar with that word. We're looking at patterns and Zentangles and textures. They will choose their subject. We didn't box them into any sort of subject. We're going to look at a bunch of art this week of other pattern drawings. We're going to look at things that are abstract and things that are non-representational, things that are very geometric, and then also ones that are representational of a certain like subject matter. We're also going to look at the difference between applying pattern to the negative space or the positive space so that they can make those choices. When they are done with their drawing, then comes the fire part. So we have purchased these frames for them. These are document frames. So it's we seem to switch frames every month. For those of you, or every year, for those of you who've been around long enough. I can never source the same frames year in and year out, especially when you're trying to get, 100 of them. So, and I can't even tell you how often I have purchased from Amazon, and in the description, it says it's glass, and I get it, and it's plexiglass, and that's not the same thing. You can't light plexiglass on fire. It melts. So I have to order frames really early and get them in and check and make sure it's actually glass. Anyways, so this year I've got document frames. They're sort of a little bit different. Last year we used small ones that were like 5x7. This year they're 8.5 by 11. So it's got a piece of glass in it. We will take this glass out. They will drop alcohol inks all over it, along with isopropyl alcohol, and we will light it on fire. And that evaporates all of the alcohol and just leaves the colorful swirly inks on it. And it is see-through and translucent, and it looks wet. And then we will put our drawings inside the frame so that it's got color on it. So it's really cool. It's it's a fun project. It's one that we really look forward to. So that's for our older kids. We will be making those projects. Last year when we did the smaller frames, I did it because it's November, and for a lot of our kids, they're only going to come to 3 classes, and I wanted to be able to finish it, but we had no problems finishing them at that size, so I went ahead and went bigger this year again. And I was able to find frames at a reasonable price. Anywho, so that's our 6th, 7th, and 8th, 12th project. This week, they're going to look at those pictures and they're going to brainstorm their subject, and they're probably going to get a light like contour pencil sketch down, and that's about it. Some of them might start inking, but most of them won't. Next week is when we will start. A lot of our teachers prefer to do the alcohol ink and the fire in weeks 2 and 3 rather than saving all of them for week 3. So probably in 2 and 3 is when we'll be breaking out the fire extinguisher. Creative explorations. All right, so my creative explorations kiddos are also doing Sumi ink. They're also doing pattern. They're also doing kind of this expressionistic stuff, that instead of Matisse, we're going to look at Van Gogh for them, and they're going to look at landscapes. So we've got all of our stations here. They'll get to play with the Sumi ink. They'll get to play with the mark making tools. We'll break out the glass pens for them. We're going to look at the art of Vincent Van Gogh, which is why our still life is sunflowers, because that's one of his more famous paintings. We've got some expressionism landscapes. So think Starry Night. That's a very expressionistic landscape. And then we've got Zentangle patterns, and we'll fill in a collaborative mural. And then this station here is from our preschool classes. They will have sand art out on the light table. So we'll move that in for our creative explorations kids for the month. Drawing 101, and this is where my show and tell stops. And so we're just going to talk at you. So those of you who are in drawing classes, let's talk about what we're doing. Drawing 101, our theme this month is all about food. So we're going to look at drawing things that we eat. It's a great one for Thanksgiving. We're going to start with recipe drawings. And so this is a way of illustrating a kind of a step-by-step. So think like treasure maps, right? The way that we use art as a form of communication. But instead of illustrating a map, we're going to illustrate a recipe. So this is like a step-by-step instruction, kind of like IKEA, right? So all in pictures. So we've got grocery ads for them to look at, to reference, and to create their recipe. Now, maybe this is a recipe they already know because they've watched you cook at home, or they've cooked at home. Maybe it's one they make up and it's super silly. So they'll get to illustrate that, and then we'll see if anyone in the class can read it back to us. It'll be fun. My Drawing 102 classes, so in our realistic class, we're going to be working from photograph. Remember, this class, we work from photograph, we work from life, and we work from imagination. So we'll start our month with photograph. We've got photographs of food items. And so not like a dinner plate, but like these are all vegetables, I think, today. So I've got carrots, I've got bell peppers, I've got, I don't know if avocado is probably a fruit, but so is a tomato, and I have both of those. So loosely vegetables, culinarily speaking, vegetables is what I have. And they're all with a negative space background. So there's nothing going on in the background in the photograph. It is simply just the fruit. And we're going to work on drawing that as realistic, as photoreal as possible using colored pencils. It's been a while since we did colored pencils. We did those with our portraits. We're going to do a warm-up with blending and color mixing and color matching, and then we'll also get to practice that skill when we get to the vegetables. My illustrative people, this whole month we are on to people, which is super exciting because this is where everybody wants to be anyway. We're gonna look at characters and people, and we're gonna be working on that. We're gonna start our month with heads and hair, but really focused a lot on just head and bone structure, because if you see me from this viewpoint, that's different than you seeing me for this one. And that's different from you seeing me from this one, right, in a profile. It's also different right now. We're straight on because my camera is sitting like right at eye level, because that's the most flattering way to look at me. Actually, I'd put it up higher if I could. But we can, as an artist, move our viewer around the same way that I can move my camera around. So drawing my head straight on is different than drawing my head from above or from below, from 3/4, that kind of stuff. So we're going to work on turning that head in space and figuring out how that changes how we draw it. And then we'll also put some hair on it. In my Drawing 103 classes, had to check, because make sure I say it right. Drawing 103 for advanced realistic, we're going to look at some scientific illustration and the history of it and the importance of it. Take inspiration from those artists. And then we're going to do our own scientific illustration. And so when I say illustration, that's just the term that they use. It is still a very realistic style of drawing. This was, prior to having photographs in books, there would be artists that would illustrate it, right, as realistically as possible for scientific reasons. And so we're going to be drawing insects is going to be our subject, and it's wide open, whether that's a butterfly, a wasp, a beetle, however you want to do it, but as photoreal as possible. We're going to be illustrating an insect using colored pencils. Again, this one here, similar to some of our ink projects, has like negative space behind it. And that's why this is a good one for November, because if we're only illustrating the object and we leave the background blank, like you would in a textbook, that doesn't take as much time as me having to cover the whole paper and solve that problem. And again, a lot of times in November, we're looking at just having kids for 3 weeks because of the holidays. So that's why this is a good one for that month. So we're doing insects. My 103 advanced, or my 103 illustrative is going to be doing a city scene. So we already did the interior with 1 and 2 point perspective. Now and that was just the room. There weren't any characters in it. Now we're going to move outside, and we're going to do something that happens on a city street. We want buildings because buildings are what give us our perspective. But there should be characters and something happening in the scene. So they'll have to design that scene and illustrate it, making sure that their background follows either 1 or 2 point perspective. So that's the plan. These artists also, because they do have to fill the whole paper, will probably work smaller than they normally would. Again, we'll probably leave it up to them. But if they would like to shrink their art on a little bit smaller scale, just for time reasons, we can do that this month and work instead of like we normally have a 9 by 12 sheet of paper with an 8 by 10 window. Like we'll shrink it down and maybe they work 5 by 7, 6 by 8. Okay. All right. Let's look at housekeeping. God, I hope this is right. Here's our November calendar. And I'm going to disappear for just a second so I can talk you through it. You ready? Okie dokie. So you notice I moved the turkeys down to the correct week. Because, excuse me, Thanksgiving, you guys, is on the 28th, not the 21st. So disregard last week's video where I put the turkeys in the wrong place. We are closed the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, and the 1st. That is when we are not open at all. You will notice on the 22nd, I added a graphic. There's a little sunshine there. That is to let you know that that is the date that you will be getting emails from us to register for your next semester's classes. And I'm going to talk more about that in the next housekeeping thing, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys a visual and let you know that that's when that will come to you. I wanted to give it to you in plenty of time before Thanksgiving, and that way you have it. Okay. On the 1st, that last turkey, that's when registration opens for everybody. That's when everything goes public. All right, let's look specifically at certain classes. If you are in a preschool class, so that's our preschool fundamentals, or our toddler classes, or you are in creative explorations, these classes meet 3 times a month. And so we got to get you 3 classes in, and it's super easy for us because there are 3 full weeks minus the Thanksgiving week. So that is what your schedule looks like. You're going to meet this week, next week, and the week after, and then you get the whole week of Thanksgiving off. Okay. If you are in multimedia or drawing, you are a 4 time a month class. And so this is what this looks like. You'll notice that for the first 3 weeks, everything is normal and regular. We don't have class, like the multimedia and the drawing classes. There are none on Wednesday and Friday, and that's why there's not a circle on there. Monday and Tuesday, people, you can come at your normal time if you want to. You don't have to, though. You could switch it up. Thursday, people, don't come on Thursday the 28th because we'll be closed. All right. But you'll notice in that last week, that Monday and Tuesday, we've got open studios happening. All that means is for the duration of the evening, we will be here for our artists to come to class for an hour and enjoy the studio space, explore stations. We might throw some paint at the wall because that's kind of fun. It's fun to take pictures. It's fun to, hang out with your friends. We will finish any projects that need finished if you come, but if you don't come, hopefully we finished it the week before. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera back on so I can talk to you because it feels weird to not be on the screen. So, all right. So for those open studios, You are not required to be here. If you miss this week because you're traveling, you don't have to make it up. But we do want to give you the option of having that fourth class. We know attendance is way down that week. And so we go ahead for our drawing kids and our multimedia kids, we get the projects done, we get the lessons done prior to that week. But we do want to get you a fourth class. And so that's what the open studio is for. Drawing kids will get to do something that isn't always just drawing. There's something that they usually ask for. You know, when are we going to paint? Well, this is the night. This is it. Come enjoy the stations. For a lot of our kiddos, it's a chance to, you know, do something they don't normally get to do. So in our multimedia classes, for my older kids, we'll have the Sumi ink out so you can play with Sumi ink. For our younger kids, you know, we get to get out some of our sensory stuff, which they're always asking about. You know, when can we climb up on the fort? You know, that's the preschoolers, but tonight you can. So that open studio is just a little bit different way of experiencing the studio, and we welcome you to come. Now, here's the thing. For those of you who've been around a long time, this has traditionally been a bring a friend week. It is not a bring a friend week. It was not bring a friend last year. It's not bring a friend this year, because our numbers have gotten too high. So that is not happening. For safety reasons, we cannot double our classes in size, even knowing we're going to be down in enrollment. So not a bring a friend, just you and your normal classmates, and maybe some classmates from other classes. And so if you are a multimedia or a drawing student, you will get an email from me this week with more information talking all about this. It will also have links for you to like select which session you want to come to. Okay. So that way I know. If you're normally Mondays at 5 and you're going to come Mondays at 5, that's fine. You could just tell me. Click, right? If you normally come Tuesdays at 5 and you're like, you know, we're going to leave town because the kids don't have school on Wednesday and you want to come Monday, then you just select Mondays at 7 or whatever works for you. If you're Thursdays, obviously you have to select something else, okay? And if you're like, too much going on else and we're just going to skip it this week, that's okay too, okay? Totally get it. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, send me a message, okay? All right. Just as a reminder, if you do miss a class for any reason, we're headed into flu season. We're headed into possibly winter weather, right? We're headed into holidays and band concerts. And, you know, I know there's been theater stuff going on, speech and debate stuff going on. Like, we're headed into all that. Basketball season, all the stuff, all right? Things are coming up. Things are going to happen. It's going to get crazy. Use the makeups. And if you can't use them because like Wednesdays or Fridays don't work for you, then reach out to me so I can help figure something else out. Okay. I'm happy to do it. And then the last thing is we've got some holiday classes, not very many, 4 of them coming up. And we'd love to have you join us. So check those out on the special events page if you're looking for something Christmassy, holiday-y to do on Saturdays in the month of December. Sound good? Oh man, that was good. I think that went really well. I hope everybody has a wonderful first week of November. If you need anything from me, I am here all week long and happy to help. Send me an email or a Facebook message. Talk to you soon.